What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to break down the 7 characteristics that make a fuckboy and what we can all learn from them. You're a fuckboy, right? And this is a phrase that gets thrown a lot quite often by women. And it has a negative connotation, but I personally never saw it as a bad thing. What that means is you're a guy that likes to fuck, right? Which is basically every man, and also you're a guy that can get chicks, right? You can't be a fuckboy and be really bad with women. That doesn't exist, right? So it's basically like the male version of a slut. But again, I never saw that as a bad thing. So to me, it's always been interesting when girls will say to me, you're a fuckboy, you're like a fuckboy. I'll be like, what does that even mean? Are you saying that I can get a lot of pussy? Yes, please, right? So it's interesting. So I think it's important to first identify what exactly makes a fuckboy without attaching any moral judgment to it. These are not good things. These are not bad things. They're just characteristics a person may have, and how they use them will determine for good or bad. So you can be a fuckboy who has a big heart and you just like having a lot of sex with a lot of different women, but you're honest and you're upfront about it. Or you can be a manipulative, toxic fuckboy that uses things like love bombing and stuff like that to manipulate women, right? So a fuckboy can either be good or bad, but we're just gonna focus on the characteristics without attaching any moral judgment to them. So the first big sign of a fuckboy is cockiness. Fuckboys are always very cocky, right? They just have this overconfidence in themselves, right? Just like they're like, yeah, I know I can get this. And this can become a little bit of a chicken and the egg type of thing, because how do you get confidence? You get confidence from repeated success. Like, you're probably pretty confident when you go to wash your hands. Like, you're not worried that you're gonna get the soap everywhere. You're pretty confident in the fact that you can brush your teeth or wash your hands because you've done it a whole bunch of times successfully. If you were to drive a car, you feel pretty confident in the fact that you get from point A to point B. But the first time you drove your car, you probably didn't have that level of confidence because you didn't have that experience. And it's kind of like this with getting girls. If you've done it hundreds of times, you're fairly confident in it. But in order to do it 100 of times, you probably need that confidence, so it can become a chicken and egg thing. But fuckboys will almost take it one step further and just have this cockiness, this shit-eating grin. They know they can get you because they've gotten you many times. Number 2 is persuasion. They're usually very persuasive. They're good at convincing women into sleeping with them. And again, this doesn't need to be a bad thing. It doesn't need to be manipulative. They're just good salespeople, right? If the product, so think about it as a salesperson, a very good salesperson. If the product is good, then you wouldn't say that's a bad thing, right? He's selling you a product that you're going to be benefit from. But if the product sucks, then that's not a good thing, right? So this is not good or bad. They're just simply persuasive, right, at selling themselves. Next big thing, number 3, is they're very comfortable with sexuality. So most guys and people in general, they get a little weird when, the topic of sex comes up, right? They get a little, they have a lot of shame or stigma or whatever around it. If they say something sexual, they usually whisper it. Fuckboys don't give a fuck. They're extremely comfortable with their sexuality. They know that, they want to fuck you, and they know that you probably want to fuck them as well, right? And they don't give a shit about it. They don't care if everyone knows. Number 4 is they usually have very good social skills, right? They're very good at, reading the situation, weaving in and out of social interactions, controlling the flow of interaction, handling various social situations. So you can't be a fuckboy and have horrible social skills. It's just not possible. Number 5 we have is they're usually very fun and they don't take shit seriously, right? So a fuckboy is the kind of guy that most women will describe that they can have a really good time with. Like, if a girl feels bummed out or whatever, in and outside the bedroom, right? They're not gonna, be super uptight or have a bunch of hang-ups. They're just gonna be loose, they're gonna be relaxed, they're gonna have fun, they're gonna crack a lot of jokes. And when you say something to them, they're not gonna get affected by it, they're not gonna take shit seriously. So a regular guy, if a girl gives him shit, he's gonna get pretty reactive and he's gonna be like, whoa. A fuckboy's gonna be like, he doesn't give a fuck. Hey, if you guys are enjoying the content on this channel, then make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, and click that bell for notification. Number 6 we have, and this is a telltale sign, is they're usually emotionally unavailable, right? So most regular guys, when they meet a good girl, they're gonna be pretty much down to commit at some point. A fuckboy, not usually. They're usually very emotionally unavailable. Even if the girl is the perfect one for them, they don't really want to settle down. And they also usually have minimal investment. So the average guy will invest a lot of energy and just investment generally into a woman. Fuckboys, they have minimal investment, and they're always non-needy. You can't be a fuckboy and be needy, right? So they just don't need much from the woman. All they want really is to have a good time, have some great sex, that's it. They don't really need validation or anything else from the woman, which, the average guy might need. And number 7, and this is also telltale sign, is they have a lot of women in their life, right? You can't be a fuckboy and not know any chicks or whatever. Usually they stay in good, they're usually on good terms with their exes. They have a lot of chicks they're talking to. Some of them they have fucked already. Some of them they're trying to fuck, right? But they have a lot of women in their life. So those are the big 7 signs of a fuckboy. Now, I'm going to mention 2 things that can sometimes go along with being a fuckboy, but don't need to. Number one is gaslighting. So there are some fuckboys, and this is we're talking about manipulation tactics now, that will gaslight. So what this means is, you'll accuse them of something fucked up that they did, and they twist it around and make it seem like it was somehow your fault. This is a manipulation tactic. You should not do it. It is fucked up, but this is some behavior that some fuckboys have. But not everyone. Like, for example, me personally, I would say I'm probably a fuckboy, right? But I don't really gaslight people. And the second one is sometimes they will love bomb. So this is something that the Tinder swindler did a lot of, right? He would always love bomb these girls. So what that means is they basically promise the girl the world, right? So maybe after a few dates, they're saying, oh, I think you're the one. You might change me. I usually never fall for girls, but I think I might fall for you, stuff like that. But when they don't really mean it. So if you truly mean it, it's not love bombing. It's love bombing when you don't actually really mean that stuff. And again, it's a form of manipulation. But you don't need to do those 2 things in order to be a fuckboy. You can be a fuckboy just by being cocky, having a lot of women in your life, having good social skills, being non-reactive, being non-needy, all the other things that I mentioned. So is it a good thing to be a fuckboy? Well, I think in some ways it really much is, right? But again, it depends on what you do with it. It's like saying, is it a good thing to be a great salesperson? Well, typically it is, unless the product is shit, in which case it's probably not a good thing, right? But if you have a great product, i.e. you're a great person, then being a fuckboy really isn't a bad thing. So I think this is interesting that this word gets a lot of negative connotations, but in reality, if you really think about it, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can very much be a good thing at the end of the day. All right, hopefully you guys found this video valuable and shows that you have what it takes to be a fuckboy by smashing that like button, hitting subscribe, and clicking the bell for notification. Let us know in the comments what you think about fuckboys and whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.